20th public hearing on the RSU 14 withdrawal. Call the meeting to order. First, the agenda tonight will have an overview done by Joe on that, as well as the next steps. Then we'll open for public comment and questions. After that, we'll have Sue just do a review on what the voting procedures are going to be on November 3rd, because they're a little bit different because of COVID, and then we'll adjourn. So we'll turn it over to Joe to give the presentation.
Okay, so you're gonna put it up on the screen? So November 3rd is the day of voting, and what we're asking is to protect what is best for the students in Raymond and our town. The history of this, Raymond has had its own school department for many, many years prior to consolidating into RSU 14. There was a Raymond Elementary School, there was a Jordan Small Middle School. At one time, they were actually combined in the same building. Well, we elected to have school choice, and Windham High School will remain our contracted school for the next 10 years if we withdraw. We joined the RSU 14 in 2009. I was involved with that campaign. It was a consolidation effort led by the state to try and save costs. Back in 2014, when we tried to withdraw earlier, we were able to negotiate a better contract with Windham at the time. It was a cost-sharing formula that started out where Raymond paid 45% of the cost of the consolidation. In 2014, as part of the withdrawal process, it was negotiated between myself and the administration of RSU 14 and some other people to decrease the funding formula, the Raymond share of the formula, by 9% over 3 years, which brings us to our current funding formula, which is Raymond paying 36% of the cost of the school budget. Currently, we have 18% of the students paying 36% of the cost. So the threat of the schools being closed is a real threat, especially where Windham is on the short list for a new middle school funded by the state. So the RSU 14 school board can vote at any time to close our middle school. The Windham people on this committee, there's 6 Windham residents and 3 Raymond residents who are elected to the RSU 14 school board. The withdrawal process is 22-step process. It's defined under Title 20A, the Maine Revised Statute Act number 1466. So if you want those, look at all the steps that go into that process, you can look it up under 20A. I think this presentation, actually we put a link in so that you can look at the process. So many other Maine towns have withdrawn since fiscal year 2013. 7 voted to join other SADs and RSUs. 18 to operate their own schools, which is what Raymond is hoping to do. How have the other towns dealt with withdrawal? If you look at Stratton and Eustis, they withdrew from MSAD 58 in 2013. You can read the quotes. They were very happy with the withdrawal.
Sorry.
If you look at Athens withdrawal from MSAD 59, they withdrew in order to save their school in Athens because it was the SAD was going to close that small school in Athens. Cherryfield withdrew from MSAD 37 in 2013. They're very happy. They became an independent municipal school. Their costs have not increased, and their town costs are about 25% less per student than if they stayed in the SAD. If you look at the proposal with Raymond and Windham, we are currently paying about $18,000 per student at the high school to send our kids there. If we were to drop down to state rate, it would be around $12,000 a year. So there's a significant savings in the tuition costs. Andover withdrew from MSAD 44, and they did it also because it was, you know, the Rumford area was going to close one of their schools, and they thought, as we feel in Raymond, the schools are an important part of this community. The process started with a voter petition. There was a public hearing. There was a referendum that was voted, approved at the ballot box to withdraw, and then a withdrawal committee was appointed. So the process continues with the negotiation with RSU 14. There was a withdrawal agreement that was agreed on by both the school committee and the withdrawal committee. Windham would remain the school of guaranteed acceptance. There'll be a transfer of the buildings and all assets in Raymond back to the town of Raymond. Teacher and staff contracts will continue. There are debt service obligations that the town of Raymond would be responsible for, just like they are now. And there will be a withdrawal schedule. We are currently at step 18 of the 22-step process. The next big step, obviously, is the vote. So if you go to the website, you can get a link to all 22 steps in this process. What's in the withdrawal agreement? It was a fair negotiation between both sides. We think it benefits the town of Raymond in the agreement. We would become an individual school unit with our own school committee and superintendent. The town would have complete control over its schools, including the grade configuration, resources, programming, staffing. And Raymond students attending Windham School will be charged the Department of Education secondary tuition rate. Raymond secondary students will continue to have school choice. I think it's about 80% of our students currently go to Windham High School. Raymond will guarantee a minimum of 50% enrollment at Windham High School, and we don't think that will be a problem. Raymond will operate a special education program. Those students who cannot be served in Raymond will be transported to RSU 14 or some other provider, and Raymond will be charged the actual costs for any special education services. Raymond will assume all collective bargaining agreements until expiration dates, and then all continuing contract rights of all existing staff will continue, and then Raymond will negotiate collective bargaining agreements once they expire. Raymond will receive all real and personal property on the premises, including school buses that service our students. Raymond will receive a share of undesignated carry forward. Currently, RSU 14 has approximately $6 million in reserves. If Raymond withdraws, what happens? Raymond creates a new public SAU. It will be a public school system. Raymond will elect a school board and hire staff to prepare for a 21-22 school year beginning in July. The school board would probably get elected in January. Raymond will no longer have members on the RSU school board. High school students may continue to attend Windham High School and or other schools of, it says parents' choice, but I would assume that the students and the parents will make that choice on where they would send their kids. Raymond will have its own special education program, curriculum department, bus system, nutrition department, facilities manager, and a business manager. What will the Raymond SAU cost? We currently pay RSU 14 approximately $10.7 million a year as our share. The Raymond School Department will cost about the same amount initially with transition costs. So there's probably about a $600,000 transition cost involved there. As Raymond's initial cost obligations and debt service are paid off, costs should decline. Now, I read an article in the Windham Eagle the other day where someone said if you withdraw your taxes, you're going to go up. And I'm like, well, our taxes have averaged a 4.7% increase on the school side since we became part of RSU 14 through consolidation. What will the Raymond School District costs cover? Salaries and benefits for teachers and support staff, educational costs for our students, all costs for high school students, building maintenance and upkeep, and Raymond tax dollars will go to support Raymond kids. If Raymond votes no, we remain part of RSU 14. There cannot be another withdrawal for proposal for another 2 years. And RSU 14 can close a Raymond school at any time by a 2/3 board vote. So please vote yes. And here's the question that's in front of you when you go vote. And I think that's the end of the presentation.
Very informative, thank you.
So if, following what we have done in the past, if people wish to make a comment or whatever, then use the raised hand function and then you'll be called on. Sue will let them in as keep them in order and whatnot.
And please be a bit patient because there are 33 people in there and I can't see them all at once. So it will take me a minute to scroll back and forth. Grace Leavitt has her hand up first.
So good evening. First, a quick question. For those that are viewing this on TV, is there also a call-in option? Is that on the TV? I'm on my computer, so I'm not watching that.
Yes, now that the presentation is finished, then the call number is put up on the screen.
Just checking on that. Thank you. So I have some comments. No surprise there, I'm sure. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I find it very unfortunate that incorrect information regarding the supposed savings to the town was first of all published in a 2-page spread in the Windham Eagle. And then the incorrect information was still on the town website until it was finally changed just a couple of days ago. I pointed it out to one of the withdrawal committee members, the one who's opposed to withdrawal. And I think she contacted someone to see that the correct information was finally posted. But it's very unfortunate that although the 3 withdrawal committee members who clearly favor withdrawal, although they said that there would be an informational mailing about this with facts, it's unfortunate that that didn't happen yet, at least as of today. I haven't checked my mail today yet because it comes late, but certainly it hasn't come out in time for people who are voting absentee or who have started voting in person. So it's unfortunate that anyone's only getting the misinformation in that 2-page spread from the Windham Eagle a month or so ago. And even if they were looking on the website until a couple of days ago, just unfortunate they were led to believe that there would be a savings in the order of 1.6 million. And when that was finally corrected, due to, at least in part, to some of us who have followed this most closely and pointing out inaccuracies or things that were missing, that was finally corrected to be less than 1/3 of that amount, say about $500,000. It's also unfortunate that likely at least some residents of Raymond have already voted, as I've said before, prior to getting correct information about this. There were 4 informational meetings held. I attended and spoke at 3 of them, but in viewing them on TV, it's unfortunate the one at the fire barn was completely inaudible. And even for the one at Jordan Small, many of the questions asked and the comments made by the public who attended were barely audible. The FAQs on the website have some inaccuracies and some items that are misleading in them, such as Raymond will always have choice. I believe that's something we need to decide every so often. That there will be transportation to Wyndham High School. There will be for the 10 years of the proposed agreement, but who knows thereafter. That most of the options prior to the first attempt at withdrawal involved closing Jordan Small, whereas there were a variety of plans being looked at to address funding shortfalls and still wanting to provide a quality education that was affordable. There is apparently an inaccurate figure for the anticipated tuition rate on the website. It says on the FAQs, it says the most recent agreement concerning cost of sharing was not being upheld and provides not quite accurate statements regarding that. It says that Raymond High School students can go anywhere, but that's only if the receiving schools agree to that. And it talks about how only a 3/5 superintendent would be necessary because that's what we had prior to consolidation. Perhaps that would be all that's needed going forward if Raymond's on its own, but it fails to point out that schools and the needs of students have changed dramatically since then. I'm personally most concerned about our students. I'm confident that what we currently have as part of the RSU is what is best for our students. The most support, the most opportunities, great staff, great programs. I do not believe that Raymond would be able to provide that on its own, given the challenges facing public schools today. We're facing a crisis in terms of shortages in nearly all educational roles, and now are in the midst of a pandemic that has added a whole other layer of challenges to not only the shortages, but also to ensuring adequate funding, among the many other challenges created by this situation. I believe that much of what has been presented by some members of the withdrawal committee is opinion and not fact. In fact, the opening title slide on the presentation said, "Protect what is best." Well, in the opinion of people that are presenting this as withdrawal is best, that's your opinion. That is not fact. I'm extremely concerned that accurate information was not provided in a timely enough manner, nor that enough information was made to even try to provide accurate information before residents were already voting, despite the informational hearings. Even this hearing was not clearly posted on the website. If you wanted to find it, you had to know that it was happening, look for it, and you had to know to click on SelectBoard, and then you could see that there was a public hearing about withdrawal. The link to the hearing was only posted this afternoon. And again, I believe it was prompted by someone contacting the town office asking, where is this link? So someone who knew that it was happening. But I don't know how widely publicized this has been for the general public. Just a couple more thoughts here. Despite all that I've already stated, I'm most concerned about what would happen to our students going forward if the majority don't vote no on question 1. I'm concerned with our high school students losing contact with childhood friends, as my own daughters did when there was no RSU and students went every which way. I'm concerned about the myth of bring back local control on some of the signs you see. That will do a disservice to our students, most especially our high school students, since all control at that level will be gone. Despite one of the quotes on the slides here this evening that said complete control over its schools. Well, yes, over the elementary schools, but absolutely no say in the high schools. For those who are more concerned about dollars than students and education, and I can certainly understand that, I pay taxes too and want to watch that as well, but I want to be sure they understand that not only is the potential savings to taxpayers much less than what was been out there for information, even the reduced amount is no guarantee. Also, there are transition costs that have to be paid up front that are more than the supposed savings. And those transition costs are not a guarantee either. I'm going to end with one more piece of information. And this is something I just read in a recent report released, I think just last month, 2020 report, How is Public Education Funded in Maine, published by Educate Maine and the Maine State Chamber of Commerce. And in there, they talked about the state average for pupil funding, pupil spending in Maine in 2019, they based it on the most recent data they could get, was $12,443, but ranged from under $10,000 in 16 of Maine's 240 districts to over $20,000 in 22 districts. And this is a quote from that report. The higher spending per student is associated with islands and small rural schools, which leads me to believe that Raymond's per pupil costs, given the small student population, would tend toward the higher side of this range, at least for our pre-K through 8. No certainty there, but for those who are deciding on how to vote based on the financial piece of this, it certainly is something I would hope they consider. There is definitely an economy of scale when we're part of the RSU and much more opportunity for our students. Most of all, I believe remaining as part of the RSU will be best for our students going forward, and I urge my fellow Raymond voters to vote no on question 1. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace.
Caitlin Lacasse is next.
Thank you very much. Thank you for hosting this meeting. I served on the withdrawal committee in 2015, and it is just as clear now as it was then that withdrawing from RSU 14 would be bad for taxpayers and even worse for students. I was absolutely dismayed to see in the September 18th edition of the Wyndham Eagle an outdated budget from the Raymond Withdrawal Committee. It was irresponsible to submit that budget before it had been properly vetted, as it erroneously showed that withdrawing from RSU 14 could lead to significant savings from our town. And as we know from the presentation we just saw, that is not accurate, and that it would actually, in fact, cost Raymond more when taking into account transition cost. I will also say, curiously, the updated budget has not yet been printed, which is just not good for Raymond voters. Of course, that it could cost Raymond taxpayers more if we go it alone should come as no surprise, as in 2015, when many of the members of the current withdrawal committee determined that withdrawing from RSU 14 could result in, quote, as much as a 25% increase in Raymond taxes. Unfortunately, more than just the budget has been misrepresented. The committee has argued that by withdrawing, Raymond could have a return to local control. But, and we've seen that on the yes yard signs, which I hope are not being paid for using taxpayer money. But that's false. Currently, Raymond has local control via the school board, which has oversight of all grades, pre-K through 12. And if we withdraw, we would lose oversight for grades 9 through 12. So it's clear if we withdraw, Raymond would have less local control. The committee has stated that withdrawing could improve educational outcomes. However, the proposed budget reduces several staff positions and cuts out others altogether. Raymond would lose Title I funding that pays for reading and math coaches who work directly with students. And most importantly, if we withdraw, there wouldn't be the opportunity for sharing resources across a larger district. This is especially important in dealing with COVID. I can tell you personally, my son is in 2nd grade and is doing full-time remote and is currently being taught by a teacher who is typically in Wyndham Primary School. I question that we would have the resources to offer that as an option if we went at it alone. Notably, 20 educators and school board members have publicly voiced their opposition to withdrawing. These are folks who live and work in Raymond and who have dedicated their lives to our children. They are on the front lines, and I trust them in their judgment when it comes to the quality of our students' education. The committee has implied that withdrawing could restore a sense of community and increase volunteerism. Frankly, this is just insulting to those of us who are at the schools regularly supporting our students and staff. Community members have joined together to build the new playground at RES, install 3 outdoor classrooms at RES, and raise money for school bus stop arms. The community is already involved and engaged. We roll up our sleeves, join together with our neighbors, and get it done. A solution in search of a problem, indeed. In 2015, 71% of Raymond voters voted in opposition to withdrawing. It's a shame that folks didn't listen and that we are continuing to waste taxpayer money to rehash the conversation. Since the 2015 vote, the relationship within the district has only grown stronger. RSU 14 is provides an exceptional education to our students at a lower cost likely than if Raymond decided to go it alone. I urge all Raymond voters to join me in voting no on question 1 in opposition to withdrawing from RSU 14. And furthermore, I urge those who are pushing this conversation to listen to Raymond voters if we decide to stay in the RSU. We cannot keep rehashing this conversation every few years. It's a waste of time and resources, and it's unfair to our dedicated educators to have this certainty hanging over them. Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin.
And Marianne Amrich is next.
That's Marianne Amrich, and that's my better 2/3. This is Charles Leavitt. Thank you and good evening. I'm from East Raymond. I have a request for clarification and then a follow-up response, but I must first make a disclosure for full transparency. I signed Mrs. Sadak's first schools petition and once even voted for her. Her petition circulated in the early 2000s and called for a town-wide vote of no confidence in the then Raymond superintendent of schools. Later, I voted for her when she pursued elected office and was quoted in the Lake Region Weekly stating, and I quote, "Raymond School's biggest challenge is standards, and the budget is over-padded in superintendent salary, maintenance of buildings, and wasted legal fees." End quote. This was May of 2005, and Mrs. Sadak was running for the school board. With that said, here's my request for clarification. Many times during the withdrawal process, Mr. Bullard, Mr. Olson, and even town manager Don Willard have referred to Raymond's schools of excellence prior to consolidation. We ran an excellent school system and we can do it again. Print media and the Windham Eagle also referred to School of Excellence. I would like a committee member or one of our consultants to explain what other historical data, other than the U.S. Department of Education's National Blue Ribbon Schools Program Award designation in 1987-1988 to the Jordan Small School, supports the proposition that Raymond ran excellent schools.
This is not a question and answer session. This is a public comment session.
Okay, well
Continue
then,
your comment.
let me help you, Mr. Olson. I see there was no response. First, let's talk blue ribbon schools. Jordan Smalls was so designated in 1987. Program rules stipulated that a designated blue ribbon school could not apply again for the award for 5 years. These awards are still given today. From 1992 to 2009, the Raymond schools never again received an award. It's unclear if we ever even applied. Now, in 2008, and this will help you with historical data if you're not able to share that with the community. In 2008 and 2009, the Maine Department of Education, headed by then Raymond resident Sue Gendron, instituted the Maine Educational Assessments in response to the Maine Learning Results Statute. The MEAs measured math, science, and what we called back then reading skills and established 3 categories: non-performing, adequate, and exceeds. Raymond 4th and 8th graders took the MEAs for 2 years just prior to consolidation and in consecutive years achieved adequate status. Despite how you might define adequate, and former Raymond School Board member, attorney Lisa Freelander, and I even had a spirited discussion about this in a public hearing. Raymond certainly did not achieve exceeds status. One might say we were not excellent, but average. And that, along with losing local control over our high school students, withdrawal could mean returning to adequate. I would also like to, I know we can't get an answer yet, but Mr. Bruno, in his presentation, referred to something about taxes of 4.7% increase since we consolidated in taxes. Is he referring to the 4.7% 6-year average of the school budget going up, or was he referring to something other than the data that is out there that does not support the school portion of our taxes went up 4.7% over consolidation period? So I don't expect an answer now, maybe later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oops. Susan Brackett is next.
Hi, thank you for having this hearing tonight. I echo a lot of the sentiments that have already been expressed, so I'm going to try not to be too repetitive. I am a parent of 2 girls, both started in Raymond. One is currently at Jordan Small and one is currently at Windham High School. I'm also a teacher at Raymond Elementary School, and I live in Raymond. I worked at Raymond Elementary School before the merger as well. And like Janie Cummings had mentioned at one of the other meetings, I remember teaching when Raymond was on its own and the budget was so tight that we had to buy our own paper. Since the merger, teachers have had access to more curriculum and more resources due to the fact that we share staff and resources together. Our classroom budgets have also been larger, which allows teachers to spend less of their personal money and still be able to provide students with the necessary materials. The board says that students will receive everything they currently receive. And I believe that may be true for the first year, but I worry about what happens after that. They've said that they would like to employ specialists full-time, but what happens when budgets get tight and we don't have the money to support that? Are those specialists then going to become part-time, in which case it becomes a revolving door? Also, new contracts will have to be negotiated for teachers. If Raymond can't come up with a comparable salary and benefits package, I worry that we may lose a lot of great teachers. All of these things will directly impact our children, students, and the taxpayers. We also have the issue of sports. More sports are offered as a result of being part of Windham. We currently have representatives on the school board for our students that go to Windham High School. If we separate, we lose our voice and have no say about what happens at Windham High School. For all of these reasons and more, I feel that our children and students benefit more from Raymond being a part of the RSU. And that's why I'll be voting no. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Eileen Pelletier is next.
Hi, thank you for having this meeting. So I am also a teacher at Raymond Elementary School, and I'm a resident in Raymond. And I echo a lot of the things that I've heard tonight. So I, like Susan, don't want to repeat what other people have said, but I fully agree with them for those who are in opposition. And I just want to say that I think together with Windham and Raymond, we are stronger. And here are some of the reasons why I think we are. So as a district, I think we've moved forward in a lot of current research-based programs. And I don't necessarily think that would have happened without us being united. And a lot of these programs were researched through committees, and the committees had people from all schools involved, voicing their opinion and their professional expertise, with students always as the top priority. So besides those program resources, just since I've been teaching in the district, just the software and hardware and technology has just become very greatly improved. Also, with those programs and technology, we've had lots of professional development that has helped us learn new programs, learned how to use these programs in the school. And some of the personnel that are giving us the training are within district. So we might get training from someone from a different school in the district because we have a lot of really qualified experts in our school system. We have a math coach who will come in and help teachers with anything from co-teaching to programs to resources. We have someone on the staff that is an expert in our writing program who will come and work with individual teachers. So I think the network of professionals in this district will be a great loss if we withdraw from the RSU. And then I just want to address a couple of other things. Just the numerous committees that have been formed in the RSU with staff from all the schools, you know, from the certification committee to math committees, a social emotional learning committee, technology committee. All of these professionals have expertise that are shared with all staff. And I don't think that will be able to be replicated if we withdraw. And let me just, so I'm just hoping that people vote no and we stay united as an RSU, because I think together we're stronger and we do better for the children. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Katie Leavitt.
Hi, thank you. So for those of you on the call, I did serve on the withdrawal committee, and as the only member of the withdrawal committee who clearly did not agree and still does not agree with this vote, I just felt that I did want to speak up tonight and just talk about how I feel as though I had the best seat in the House to kind of gauge the motive for this vote. Which is, I will say, is I like to go back to Grace's point that this is my opinion, but it never felt that it was about the kids. It felt like this was a motive all about spite. And I really worry about how this whole process has moved forward. We asked for updated data on the website. We asked for an updated budget to be included on the website. It only happened because, or apparently only happened because I sent an email asking why that hadn't been added, I think maybe a week ago. There was a mailing that was approved by the withdrawal committee on October 5th with an updated budget that's supposed to go out to every Raymond resident. That has not been received that I know of in a mailbox. I've asked for an update on when that will go out and have not received anything. There was a conversation that was had about updating the Wyndham Eagle, and if we had to pay for space to put the updated budget in the Wyndham Eagle, that would be done. Again, that has yet, that I have seen, unless it's coming out on Friday, have not seen that, and have asked the question to my fellow withdrawal committee members and have not received an answer on when either of those will happen. So it's really appalling to me as part of the withdrawal committee how this has all moved forward. There really was not much notification about this meeting tonight. It was kind of buried in the website. It was really hard for folks to get that information. I know this isn't a question and answer session, but I did realize that during Joe's presentation that there was a mention of a facilities director. From my understanding, this is in addition to the budget and was not included originally. So I wonder if there's some other things that were added. I actually was a tad bit late to this meeting, so I may have missed that. But again, it just doesn't seem like things have really been very transparent and communication has not been done well. I just think our kids, our staff, they are already really stressed and stressed out and stretched to the limits with everything that's going on. We do not need this to impact our schools anymore. We have an amazing working relationship as an RSU. We work together. We compromise together. We are a voice supporting our students. As a school board member, we do not vote based on what town we live in. We vote for the better of the students. You've heard all the benefits from the folks before me. They've said it much better than I can of being part of the RSU. And I just really encourage all of you that are listening and watching to take those words to heart. These are words of parents of children. They're the educators of our children. And I just really encourage folks to vote no on question 1.
So next is Ken Smith.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for holding this forum. I'm a resident of Raymond, a taxpayer. We moved here in 1999 from Windham. And part of the reason that Raymond was so attractive for us was the quality of the primary and middle school system. So a couple things, and unfortunately, I agree that the discussions around withdrawal have not been as out front as we would have liked them to be. I'm not sure whether it's a function of what we're dealing with the pandemic or what, but I do not question the motives of the people on the board, the withdrawal board here. These are people who've lived in Raymond for longer than I have and really want what's best for our town. So I've witnessed the pre-consolidation and after consolidation, having 2 children in the school system. And I don't think we should have ever consolidated to begin with. I think we really need to separate what consolidation brings to our students and our town here. We did not need to consolidate with Windham in order to be able to send our students to Windham. We had the opportunity to do so to begin with, and we can tuition those students there or maintain choice, which I felt was a really, really nice benefit of having Raymond. However, in doing so, my observations have been in talking with other people, talking with teachers, talking with support staff, is that our local control, and this is what we've lost in this process, we haven't gained anything in terms of high school education. What we've lost in the process is our local control over the primary and middle school. And I have heard, seen, had conversations through the years of an erosion of the quality of school that RES and JSMS has provided because of a disproportionate allocation of resources towards Windham through the RSU process. And further, I understand the teacher's perspective, and I respect their perspective and point of view, but there is a separate interest in some of their statements here, and I just feel that we should have never consolidated to begin with. We gained nothing out of the process, and we've lost local control and share of voice on our school board, which directly impacts our primary and middle school education. And frankly, if we have to pay more tax dollars within a reasonable amount in order to gain back that local control over primary and secondary education, I'm all for it. My kids are not in school. I don't have kids in school, but as a Raymond resident, I want what's best for our students and our families here. And we have gained nothing in terms of our high school students by consolidating into this RSU. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
And currently there are no raised hands.
That being the case, we'll have Sue just do a rundown of what the procedure is going to be for voting on the 3rd, because it's a little bit different than has been in the past as far as separation and things like that. So we'll do that and then we'll conclude the meeting. Thank you.
A hand just went up. Do you want to entertain that at this juncture?
We've closed questions now, so we're on to the next agenda item, which is the review of the voting procedures.
So with COVID, it will be very similar to the July voting. Voters will be split into 2 different sets of the alphabet based on surname at the door. When you get to the gym, though, you'll be split further into 2 more, so that we'll have 4 lines going in, all with 6-foot distancing marks on the floor all the way along, and keeping people in these queues, as if you will, is a bit better to control the social distancing and keep people safe. We are asking that everyone wear a mask that comes to the polls. The staff will be wearing masks. They can wear shields if they want to. There will be what the state calls sneeze guards up at the voting, where the incoming voter list is, where you'll get your ballots. And the staff will have access to gloves. We'll be cleaning the voting booths between each voter as best we can, so that that shouldn't be an issue, and it wasn't in July. People will be handed a pen with their ballot. There'll be a box at the door. You can either keep your pen or throw it in the box, and we'll sanitize them and shuffle them back through once they've been sanitized and they dry off after being sanitized. We have tons of hand sanitizer that will be all over the place for people to use, as well as for the staff and for cleaning. Everyone will come in that front door of the gym that goes down the long hallway, and then you'll go out the back corner, or the front corner, I should say, of the gym. There won't be, unless there's a special need for it, there won't be any going back through the same way you came. Again, to keep social distancing and try and keep people safe. We'll keep the doors open as best we can as well to try and keep airflow in there, because that's important to keeping the air fresh and keeping the germs down to a dull roar. And I think that's about it. Any petitioners will be outside. They won't be in the polling place. We are limited to only 50 people at a time. But given the 6-foot distancing and the number of booths that we'll have and the staff, I don't think we'll have a difficult time maintaining that. The 50 count does not include the people that are waiting in line in the hallway, nor anyone waiting outside. It's just those that are within the gym. So we're going to try and keep everyone as safe as we can. We've already had a lot of requests for absentee, and we're up to almost 1,500 requests, and we've gotten back almost 1,000 ballots now. People can come to the town office, call when you get here. If you do this, get your name on the list. When it's your turn, you can come in. We'll issue you a ballot. I've got a voting booth set up right here. You can vote the ballot, hand it right back to us, and cut the middleman out completely. We also have a ballot box that's been installed on the front walkway of the town office that there have been some concerns about people stealing the ballot box. I guess there was a news story. That puppy is bolted to the concrete. So I suppose if someone threw a chain around it and put it on the bottom of their truck, they might be able to take off with it, but we may notice. So that should be nice and safe. And there's also the tax box next to the door. If you don't feel comfortable with the ballot box and want to stick it in there, that's just a smaller space, so it could fill up. But on the whole, voting should look very similar to what you've seen. And I still very much encourage people to come to the polls, where we will keep you as safe as we possibly can.
Okay. Thank you all for coming. And if you haven't voted already, vote on the 3rd. And with that, the meeting is adjourned.